Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Team Fortress TV. Joining, to kick us off tonight, we have got the second Prem playoff fixture of the season. Of course, it is ETF2L Prem Season 41 semi-finals. It's tf2easy versus Death and Destruction. Death and Destruction coming in off the back of a round one victory versus Forskings. We've got a golden roster of talent joining us tonight. So on production is going to be Ondkaja. On the mic with me is going to be Bumfries, and we're joined by the ever elusive kaidus. So how's it going, guys?
It's going great, thanks.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Happy to be here.
But yeah, obviously looking at this fixture, we've seen one round of Prem playoffs so far. It saw Death and Destruction, one of the teams featuring tonight, overcoming Forskings, managing to battle for their spot in playoffs, fighting for their lives, trying to get the top spot. Obviously, significantly favoured in this fixture is going to be tf2easy. They've had a pretty decent run of games, dropping only 6 points across all 7 weeks to Witness Gaming, who are currently sat first seed, ready to take on the victor of this game here. So, what's your sort of general thoughts? Who are we pegging coming into this? Is it going to be a tight one, or is there potential for a bit of an upset?
Right. Well, first of all, I think definitely tf2easy. I'm gonna have to favour pretty strongly coming into this one. We've only been a week since their week 7 game. These two teams did go against each other not too long ago, and it was pretty dominant on the side of tf2easy. I have to say, I believe a 5-0 and a 5-1 in that last regular season game. As you say, of course, as well, tf2easy only dropping points to Witness Gaming, kind of the expected top seed of this season, whereas there's been quite a bit of rough and tumble for Death and Destruction all throughout the season, but we'll obviously have to see whether or not they can come up on top tonight. Do you think they've got anything up their sleeves, kaidus?
I mean, I don't think you can deny the odds are stacked against Death and Destruction tonight. tf2easy are looking like a very, very strong outfit. But I think there is some intrigue in the veto, because if I was to single out a strength for Death and Destruction, it would be Sunshine. And tf2easy have actually let Sunshine through the veto today. And that would actually be, at least based on the info I'm given, that will be the second map played. And maybe tf2easy are just incredibly confident. But if there's a chance for Death and Destruction in this game, it probably was always going to be Sunshine. So I'm quite surprised tf2easy have let that through, because I think tf2easy are the type of team that can, they probably could have played any map in the map pool and dealt with Death and Destruction, or at least been confident that they could do so. But letting Sunshine in adds a little bit of spice into this, I think, because, okay, I'm not saying that Death and Destruction are going to destroy tf2easy on Sunshine or something, but they have a 2 out of 3 win rate on Sunshine, only losing to Witness Gaming 1-2. It's definitely like their best map. So yeah, I think letting that map through by tf2easy has potentially opened the doors to us getting a bit more of a show than we may otherwise have gotten.
Yeah, hopefully that's not sort of forming a rod for their own back. We're going to kick it off with product tonight. I think quite obviously a tf2easy pick here. We've seen sort of the former iterations of the formative Nerd Rage roster putting in some really solid shifts and sort of a really reliable map in playoffs for them. So are you expecting a bit of a sweep on his first one, kaidus?
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, tf2easy will be very, very disappointed if they don't come away winning this map, and I think they'll even be a bit disappointed if they let it get close. Obviously, this is a team with a storied background, with Viaduct being like a good map for them, and I think the introduction of Salentes into this kind of long-standing lineup, I think he brings a different face to their Viaduct gameplay. And yeah, I think they're going to be a very, very strong Viaduct team. And not only that, but I actually see some weaknesses in Death and Destruction's Viaduct. If I was to briefly summarize, I'm not a huge fan personally of the approach that Death and Destruction take on mids. they tend to play very, very passively with their soldiers and give up a lot of room on the flank. Like, maybe they'll have changed since the regular season, but in their regular season Viaduct matches, they were doing these mid strats where Jevon would take China and just spam from China. Matters would play from Japan, like the smaller bridge, and just spam, and they would leave the entirety of patio like kind of wide open, which yeah, for a team like tf2easy and for a pocket soldier like Solentes who likes to coordinate with his soldier partner, coordinate with his flank, and be very, very proactive, I feel like that's going to give them a lot of room to work with on the mids, and that has a knock-on effect for me because not only do I think it's very, very exploitable on the mids, but if I was to assess Death and Destruction's gameplay on Viaduct, I would say the thing they're stronger at, not stronger than tf2easy at, but their strength on the map as a team is their ability to hold the point and to do some nice transitions into forward holds. But something they struggle at least relative to their peers in Prem, is attacking the point. Not that they can't attack the point, but it's not the strongest part of their game. So if they're not able to win mids, they're going to be in for quite a rough time. And that's before you kind of get into the discussion about the arguable DM differential in this game, which is sure to be a factor as well.
Yeah, I've got to agree with everything Kaidus has said pretty much. This does feel like a bit of a punish pick from tf2easy. There hasn't been great results from Death and Destruction on this map against any team, even recent scrim results showing them losing very strongly to even the teams of Div 1. So I do believe this is going to be a very strong map for tf2easy. And obviously, even without looking at, Death and Destruction's rather poor form on the map, obviously tf2easy are great on it either way against even the best of the teams. These guys have also always had a kind of way of thinking about the game, which is to play your own game rather than anti your opponent's game. That's particularly been one of Morale and Josh's kind of main philosophies when playing on these Nerd Rage type teams. So I don't think it's particularly just that they want to crush Death and Destruction on a map they don't know, but obviously they do have comfort in their own ability on this map. And the DM discussion is going to be an easy one to go over as well. I mean, everyone but Auto on the side of tf2easy is a Prem winner, and you can't say the same for anyone on the side of Death and Destruction.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, oh, sorry, Gail, I'll let you go. Apologies.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. Otherwise, I'll talk to the end of days.
But no, as you touch on, individually, the players on the side tf2easy, they've been around the block a few times. They've all been in these high pressure situations before, and as individuals, they really do shine. And I'm sure these guys have been doing their homework. I'm sure they've watched all of Kaidus's VODs, like that's for sure. And particularly picking up that vulnerability on the flank on this map. If there's any team that's going to be able to exploit that at Death and Destruction, I'm sure that's going to be tf2easy.
All right, well, we are going live in 1 minute, so we'll give Kaidus some final chances to wrap up. Maybe give us a prediction of how you think this one's going to go on the first map.
I'm honestly just going to go with a straight 3-0. I would say watch out for Fancy because he is a slightly new addition to this roster, and he maybe can bring some a little bit of extra X factor like the young gun. But realistically speaking, it's going to take a mammoth effort from Death and Destruction to make this anything but a rippity roll.
All right, Meer, do you have your own thoughts before we get started?
I think we're going to see a pretty damaging start out of tf2easy. I think this is their map. They just want to rumble. They want to rattle the cage. They want to knock Death and Destruction down as best they can. And I think that they're gonna be hammering this map. They're not going to take a backseat. They're just going to hammer. I'm going to say they're going to win this 3-0. I think they want to make a statement with this first map here.
Oh, I'd love to disagree with you, but genuinely, I don't think there's any value in doing so. This is going to be a 3-0 to start us off, I do believe, for tf2easy. Not to downplay the game right to start us off, but I do think all the exciting stuff is going to be happening on Sunshine and maybe onwards if Death and Destruction can manage to survive that map.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree there. Sunshine definitely the one to look out for. We saw Death and Destruction having a really tight games with Witness on it, and I think that's definitely grounds for an upset. But dropping this first map is definitely going to start you off on the back foot, which is to be avoided at all costs. But it's not necessarily a matter of choice for Death and Destruction here. So, but we've been wrong before. We can definitely be wrong again. But we've got the great-minded kaidus here, so surely we got to be cock on with that one.
Yeah, I think I mean one thing we didn't mention is just there are like qualities on Death and Destruction. Like Jevon has been an absolute beast so far this season. So if he was to put up a huge game, you never know. And I will say that even though I've been praising the Celentes soldier synergy and all of that sort of thing, there's a little bit of a wildcard element with Nubby where okay, he's an amazing player, but from time to time not always necessarily fully in sync with his team. So never say never, but yeah, it's gonna be tricky. But for those watching, I would say if you happen to see a bit of a roll on this game, do not lose heart because there is always promise of map 2.
Yeah, so I suppose while we're just waiting for this to kick off, we can just have a quicker rundown of the rosters. We touched on maps. So it's going to be Product, Sunshine, and then the decider map, if we get there, is going to be Granary. So if I start us off on the side tf2easy, we've got Morale and Gazi on the Scout Soldier. Is going to be Celentes and Nubby. Obviously, some real sort of stalwarts there. We got Nazboy on the Demo Man, and finally it's going to be Auto on Medic. Would you like to take us through the Death and Destruction roster, Bun?
Yeah, why not? We've got Ixie and Flick, aka SpongeBob, on the Scouts. We've got Jevon and Matt on Soldiers. Fancy Elf, a pickup from Mandem, I believe, on Demo. And we've got Jorge rounding out the roster on Medic. So, by no means a weak roster, but obviously, when you're up against all the Prem vets you've just mentioned, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, it has the potential to be really sticky for Death and Destruction. You know that not sort of a couple of them have been around the bush a few times with each other on various sort of Charlie teams, but this is not just a regular season match. This is playoffs. This is what decides whether your season is going to continue or end. And they know it's an uphill battle. I'm sure they've done their homework, and individual definitely have the potential to shine. And you touched on Jevon. He really does have the potential to tear up. So I think we could be on to quite a tantalising game here if they get off on the right foot.
Would either of you like to point out a player on Death and Destruction who you think is better than their rival class on TF2Easy, if there is one, or if not, who you even think is the closest in terms of those divides between the sides?
I think I might have to pass that over to kaidus. I couldn't possibly comment.
I think it's hard to pick out one that's outright better. And as crazy as it might sound, because Celentes is so strong, I feel like probably the most interesting head-to-head matchup is probably Jevon and Celentes, but that says a lot more about how promising Jevon is as an upcoming player than it does about Celentes. I still think Celentes is a stronger player, but yeah, that's an interesting matchup to watch.
Okay, and with that, we are now kicking off map 1. This is the ETF2L Prem Season 41 semi-finals for Premiership. It's TF2Easy versus Death and Destruction. We're going to be kicking off with Product and Bumfries. What's cracking on this mid?
Yeah, thanks very much, kaidus. We'll hear more after this map is over. Still in for a very fast bomb. All of TF2Easy coming across the point to try and follow up on it. They do find 3 kills for their own 3, but they need to find Jorge now. They're both stuck deep in enemy territory, and they are finally going to collapse onto Jorge. They still have 3 alive up against Fancy Elf. Has to do the impossible. Gets that first pipe to start it off. Both low health, but unable to finish off either of those frags. And as we would expect, the first mid goes the way of TF2Easy.
Yeah, pretty painfully drawn out mid there, but TF2Easy managed to settle their feet after losing Auto pretty early there and sweep up the frags right at the end. They managed to secure the point in their favour. Coming straight in with the counter, they're going to be Jevon. It's going to be a double. Mathet's in as well. A huge amount of damage. Players coming in across, getting a good bit of cap time, imagining to pick up Nazboy on the side TF2Easy. Looks like they're trying to tickle them just a little bit, sending Nubby behind, baiting in Celentes as well, trying to open up a bit of space. They're applying here a tremendous amount of pressure on to Jorge, but they just about manage to slip away there. So Death and Destruction taking advantage of both of tf2easy soldiers being down, recap at that point, and putting tf2easy on a little bit of a back foot.
Yeah, apologies. I believe we're having some production problems, but currently in control of the point are Death and Destruction, and the Ubers are dead even. Morale trying to take this one up to the point, seeing if they can take this trade across. They do look to take it across now onto Sil and Morale. They have managed to make some flashes happen on Death and Destruction, and 3 players behind on the flank as this trade comes in. Sil and Gazi now making their way out from behind. Sil has bombed in, got a massive double kill, make that a triple as he follows it up onto Jorge as well. Only Fancy and Matt left alive, whereas Sil is the only casualty. They're all blobbing up on the point, and Auto does manage to live through that. So incredible play from tf2easy and Sil in particular to get that triple kill and get this forward hold going.
Yeah, a really well-exploited opportunity for tf2easy there. Death and Destruction commit both their soldiers behind it. tf2easy just waddle on under them and manage to sweep up the remaining 4 players, making it particularly sticky. They're trying to bust down now tf2easy's forward hold, but they lose 3 in the process. Get pretty close to Auto, but not able to convert enough damage to sort of pull them out of that forward hold. So going to be a bit of a trade here. Death and Destruction just need to try and feel them out. They've pulled up the spy. It's going to be Jevon. He's coming through main, trying to make a little something. This is certainly going to be coordinated, but I think they're fully aware of his presence already.
Morale already knows. He played the "There's a Spy" voice line, but he's not able to hit the shots on Jevon nonetheless.
Gosh.
Auto's just getting faced up, and Pyro does eventually have to pop that off. Bit of a beef maybe from Morale to not instantly shut that down, but it all looks okay in the end. No harm, no foul. Jorge does manage to keep his Uber up as the respawn wave comes in, and this forward hold looks like it's been cracked.
Yeah, there's certainly a bit of potential for them to force. Death and Destruction certainly taking their time, making sure they circulate these buffs before they meander their way out through main. tf2easy taking a pretty reserved stance. They've got a decent bit of cap time. They don't need to take any risky plays, but they're quite keen to get that Uber off as soon as possible. Picking up Spawn Bob, a pretty good start for them as well. And Jevon painfully weak on that flank. They're trying to chase Auto out with that Uber, but unable to convert anything too damaging onto tf2easy, and quite a sort of open cap for tf2easy to recontest with a huge bomb coming in.
Gazi just ran straight in there and got a simple little one hit onto Jorge. The point was never even capped during this whole endeavor. There's 15 seconds left now until tf2easy will secure this first round, and it was such a nice trap from Nasboy to drop SpongeBob from that Uber and just make it really easy to get his own med out, recombine at the end of it to get all the frags. And this is just desperation at this point. Everyone's running forwards from Death and Destruction as the Uber does come out. No one's even touched the point, though. They've forgotten all about it. And the announcer just counts down those fatal seconds at the end of these first rounds. 1-0 is the score to tf2easy.
Yeah, a bit of a gut-wrenching start for Death and Destruction. They would certainly hope for better there, but a couple unfortunate things. You know, the opportunities they tried to exploit completely squandered by tf2easy, but I'm sure they will hope to rectify that in this second map. A really rapid double bomb from both sides, but Jorge going down tremendously early from the side of Death and Destruction. All their players so painfully weak, but they managed to get Auto in the fray. Both their soldiers still up, applying a sane amount of pressure to that point as Ixie tries to trail a couple of players back. Managed to pick up both Nasboy and Nubby there, creating an excellent opportunity for Mathez, Ixie and Jevon to try and get this first cap over the line.
Man, 3 health.
Slightly before as well.
3 health is 2 more than Ixie needs. He gets 2 kills on the backline there, and even is distracting Auto enough to be looking back and let Mathez get a free pickup to get that kill on the point. So, Death and Destruction in lead in terms of the clock for the first time so far this game. Sil wants to do something about it though. There's a double bomb in, immediately picking up Jorge and Fancy. It's a 2-for-2 trade as Ixie and Jevon have gone behind, but everyone is starting to blob up around Auto now. The bomb is nicely denied. Ixie is denied also, and there's just no health left to contest the point with from Death and Destruction. Nas and Morale going to walk this one forwards, and it should be a pretty free cap.
Yeah, seems to be that way. 80% Uber advantage on tf2easy, a relatively uncontested point due to the spawners coming up from Death and Destruction there. So slightly unfortunate for them. They're ticking the timer down tf2easy looking to get their head back in the game with a really aggressive Uber, a really deep bomb. Jorge so painfully weak, juggled up into that corner. He's still alive, does get picked off by Morale. All of their players still so unbelievably healthy. And a nice easy cleanup on that cliff, but a nice bomb from Fancy does see Morale go down. And in all of that frame, Auto's been left alone.
But he's just styling on that. He does manage to get the pickaxe kill. Oh no, Auto gets left all alone.
He must be absolutely tamping at that. That's unbelievable. He managed to cover so much distance, but he ran just a little too far for his team to keep up. And that's created a little bit of an opportunity for Death and Destruction to retake at this point. Now, they managed to get it reasonably uncontested. They're betting now with a slight Uber advantage in hand. Just getting themselves nice and healthy as tf2easy look to disassemble this mid-hold.
Yeah, and it was looking to be such a brilliant use of time by... Oh, sorry, the bombs are coming in. There's no time to even talk about this as the double bomb is through. They do find that frag onto Ixie, but not quite the medic that they wanted. The counter bomb does get a lot of damage onto Auto, but not the frag they needed. And all this time, the point has been tickled. It's almost capped already, and the recombination from the soldiers behind and the players ahead just destroys everyone on tf2easy there. And once again, tf2easy get the frags, they get the forward hold into position.
Yeah, Death and Destruction got a real solid amount of damage onto Auto, but didn't have their own Uber in hand from their advantage, and it sort of left to a bit of a half commitment there, and it just sort of slipped out of their hands. But Death and Destruction now trying to bust out with their Pyro to a pretty good degree of success, getting the force onto Auto, losing Jeevan for it, and managing to pick up Solentes as they back up as well. So this should be a real great credit to them trying to push out. Looks like they're opting for Cliff. They need to heal up before they can look to contest this point, but do have a player advantage in hand and a 50% Uber advantage, which should serve them pretty well. But they're just feeling out tf2easy right now, not looking to initiate anything too harshly, but it's going to be Jevan, the one to bomb him, but he sort of falls into the scattergun of Ghazi. We're seeing the counter bomb coming out. Ixie goes down, a lot of damage onto Jorge, and he's going to have to force with tf2easy's players so far back.
Yeah, really nice from Nubby. He never actually left the forward hold. He was hiding behind. Nas is trying to follow this one up. There's a bit of chase onto all these incredibly low players so far back behind their own house, but Nubby going down there and having no soldiers left does mean that they got a bit too much, as there is a repush coming in from Death and Destruction, but they're not able to find anything. It's really so fragmented. And they do just have to eventually leave, let this point get capped up. Ixie, one at a time, they're feeding into the machine of tf2easy, just running in, trying to get onto Auto. But that's not the way to do it.
No, I don't think firing pistol shots across the point as a scout and feeding late is the sort of ideal way to get that force over the line. But we move. A nice air shot from Nubby onto Mathes scuppers his chances. It's just going to be Jevan in on his own, but absolutely annihilated in the air by their scouts. They're just going to have to commit over to the point now. tf2easy pop the Uber charge off. They are just keen to convert as many frags as they can, and the Uber charge players on point from Death and Destruction means that there was no contest to be had anyway, but the health was not looking too hot.
Yeah, a bit awkward. It's better this round from Death and Destruction, but as we've been saying, just every single opportunity looks so much better for tf2easy. Obviously, they see a medic a slight bit too forwards, they take a huge Uber into him, they end up getting Nubby behind in situations where they shouldn't be able to, and he gets massive kills. There's just so much value for everyone on tf2easy right now as they do come into the third mid. Sil in with a very fast bomb, but has already long since detonated, and everyone else is out. Nubby, last man standing, does come in and manages to splash Jorge off the rock, whereas Auto and Morale... No, Auto gets caught!
Oh, he hit the doorway and got juggled by fancy stickies there. That's really painful. It's not a good way to start a round, but obviously they do have two in hand now. But yeah, not great for them. So Death and Destruction now in control of point, winning their second mid-fight in a row. And tf2easy looking to capitalise pretty early on that front post. Soldiers trying to take this open flank side. Mathes sort of suppressed for the time being, and it opens up enough space for their scouts to get on this cap. The heal's very far forward here, and they seem to be able to get a lot of damage onto Death and Destruction, managing to put frags on both of their soldiers. And it looks like they're quite keen to chase with their player advantage now.
Yeah, Ixie is the sole survivor left in, but the chase is going all the way into spawn. Gazzy is desperate and bites off more than he can chew there, and now in a 5v3 this could really all fall apart. If the chase is really extreme, they could get everyone here, but no, there is enough distance between them now that they're just going to get the cap, and they'll be more than happy with that.
Yeah, it was a bit of gluttony there. They know that they're going to get the fastest spawns there, and just sort of fell victims to their own success there. So tf2easy on a bit of a back foot, really aggressive with the overcharge, is returned by Jorge on Death and Destruction's side. Again, just invincible players shooting invincible players, trying to make something happen. Silentes managing to pull a fair few of them back, which opens up the point for the players on tf2easy's side. In spite of being one down, able to get a decent smattering of damage on the Death and Destruction players. Just a little bit of a spam fest. They've been droved off of this point now, and it's just turning into a little bit of a spam fest now as Silentes gets up on that spawn, and Jevon looks to initiate on the Death and Destruction side.
Yeah, Jevon jumping behind is doing a good job, actually. The other soldier able to back him up. They've got kills for free. Ixie just finds an auto who's left completely alone, and he is able to take down that frag. Obviously, not all bad news as Jorge has been found on the other side, but this is pretty good for Death and Destruction. I mean, that initiation from the soldiers was really nice. Jevon able to turn them around and survive, then getting that follow-up from Matt, of course, as well, was a nice little play, but immediately tf2easy just roll over the point with those faster respawns and are able to pretty much pick it up without contention.
Yeah, we return to the ever-elusive spam fight. Both these teams are just ensuring an insane amount of spam. Silentes tries to initiate but lands in the fray of three players, where managing to create a bit of a distraction there. So Death and Destruction just trying to tinkle that point over the line, but well returned by some spam from Nazboy. They've lost two of their flank members now, so potentially sticky for Death and Destruction here. Not much opportunity for them to get this cap, as they're staring down the barrel at some very scary tf2easy players. And it looks like they want to pop the overcharge off. It is trade pretty neatly pulled on by Auto. Looking slightly better for tf2easy, but they're not keen to let Jevon get away with whatever he wants to behind and sacrifice the sort of aggressive position they could have got with that slightly longer overcharge, and quite keen to just take it yet into another really scrappy fight. Fancy-Off managing to pick up 2 in 1 with that pipe there, and managing to also pick up Gazzy. So doing a really good job for his team as the sole remaining player, but he's just extending his spawn at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, even in the trades being taken by Death and Destruction, it's tf2easy that are in control. That was more of a force from Jorge, just getting spammed down before the trade rather than a trade out of strategy. It was more out of necessity, and now they are really playing out of necessity, just trying to get all onto the point, but the bombs are in. They find Jorge instantly. All the frags look to be going the way of tf2easy. They have gotten the kill onto the medic for Death and Destruction at the very least, but that's really not good enough when this time has been ticking down on your clock for too long now. Jorge is on the respawn, but it's a completely negligible advantage.
Yeah, we're seeing the best run out of Death and Destruction so far time-wise. You know, they sort of tf2easy lost Auto, committed 3 players in just to try and get that medic, and they managed to get 2 more for it as well. Silentes on China being an absolute menace, managing to exert like 300 damage and slips away alive, managing to completely disassemble Death and Destruction's positioning there, putting him in a really sticky spot. They're still waiting for 2 of their spawners. The only player out right now is going to be Mathes, and he has been well spotted by the tf2easy players, getting nice and buffed up on point.
And here we go. This is the last hurrah for Death and Destruction. Perhaps they do bomb in. They get a frag onto Nazboy. It's 2 for 2 traded out so far. Matt is fully across the point. They look to be winning this fight. They do need to hold on to it though. Gaz is fighting them on the point. He's got the first kill. Does manage to get SpongeBob low. Nubby is in against 2 scouts. That's not a soldier fight any day of the week. And they do manage to keep themselves alive. But will they be able to survive any longer than this? We're in overtime. Any hint of a cap now from tf2easy will send us to Sunshine.
Yeah, we're going to have to see a real sort of spring tap reaction out of Death and Destruction. Ooh, let's see, he's in the house here. This could be a big opportunity here. They manages to get onto Auto. 2 rockets off, manages to get the 3rd. They a lot of players through the net here. They managed to keep Jorge alive. Players trying to get into him, sort of tickling that point as well. Nazboy, we know how dangerous he can be with those stick pipes there, but looks like they just want to sort of slowly clean them up. They managed to net themselves a big Uber advantage off the back of that Jevon play. That's really crucial with 40 seconds left.
And Jevon survived the entire time too. He's even alive now. Does get a bow in the corner, gets shut down by Morale eventually. But he just got so much value on the back lines there during that fight as well. The TF2Easy repush is in. No soldier on the side of Jevon to stop them, but the Uber will try to, as they do manage to push them back off the point, but they're not finding the frags with the Uber. That's what they really need. That just makes it a temporary hindrance rather than a permanent force out. As the repush does come in, Gaz is on the point. They need to stop him. Still low health in the back lines. Auto trying to do anything he can, but he just gets cleaned up. All eyes on Silentes now, the only man who can stop this win for Death and Destruction in this round. He does get shut down, and Morale running towards the point, but I don't think they're able to touch it in time. Nubby's trying to jump in as well. They do manage to keep the point alive. Jevon landing on top of it now, though, will pick up a frag. There's not much TF2Easy health left on the board, and finally, Death and Destruction get themselves onto the scoreboard in this map.
Wow, that was really sticky there. It looked like a prime opportunity for TF2Easy to take that back at the end there, but when the Uber charge came out of Death and Destruction, they did a really good job of kiting it, but their way of kiting it was to commit 3 players to their side, and then as soon as the Uber ended, they had 6 players hunting them down, and yeah, all sort of slipped apart from there, but looks like we have a little bit of a game on our hands. A really good performance out of Death and Destruction coming now into this 4th mid. They're looking to win their 3rd current, so Nubby comes in, tries to contest Mathez on this flank side. A nice high bomb from Sil as well, managing to drag back 2 players individually, opening up a lot of space for TF2Easy here. Ixty manages to pick up Nubby as well. The 3 players down from TF2Easy should mean a little bit of a walk-in from Death and Destruction at both medics surviving, keeping it nice and even.
Death and Destruction kind of sprung a trap here on this mid. They hid their soldiers both on grass, expecting this Nubby bomb. They weren't able to instantly kill Nubby off of it, but in fact, they kind of baited the rest of TF2Easy to overextend and just give up frags to them when TF2Easy had all the control of the point. Now, the Uber trade is out from TF2Easy as they try and get control back in their own hands. Sil left on the backlines after the trade fades, and he's going to go down instantly. Morale trying to find a frag to even it out onto Matt here, but not able to get it yet. The Jevon frag does eventually come in, but still unable to get control of the point. Morale's just going to tickle it, might be able to steal it from under their noses as the bombs recommit from Nubby. He's going to pick up Fancy, and that is the point secured.
Yeah, a tight Uber situation as well. Both teams equal. Not great health on the side Death and Destruction, so they need to heal up before they look to feel out the TF2Easy hold here. So they're quite contented with taking their time. Looks like they want to initiate now. Jevon goes over, takes a big old chunk from Morale on that point. Get a little bit of cap time, pop up Auto into the air, not managing to get the frag over the line and putting Jorge in a very vulnerable position. They do have to pop here. Nazboy goes down on the cap, and they're not even going to be able to get close to Auto here. They're just going to have to be contented with this cap, but there are 4 TF2Easy players that are looking to make it a bit difficult, but that trap's done quite the opposite.
Yeah, that trap sprung them all different directions, but it does work out in the end as 2 frags come in the Uber, all you really want to ask for, and the fact that Death and Destruction didn't manage to sneak the cap at any time during that engagement. They are still behind on the clock, and the Ubers are still roughly even. Jorge might be able to abuse this if it does come up again, but still bombing forwards, just putting the pressure on, able to push them back enough for Nubby to come and bail him out. And Ixie and Matt do get caught there on the point quite a bit. Jevon bombing in behind does pick up a medic kill, and this is actually going all the way for Death and Destruction. They're trying to get the double bomb in now onto Jorge, see if they can find a silver lining to this fight, but they're not even going to be able to do that. Still last man alive on the backlines. Does get picked up. Doesn't trade out with Matt even.
Yeah, the 3 painfully weak TF2Easy player was scrabbling, just trying to get a hold of Jorge after that little bit of a slip up there, but just couldn't get it over the line. Just not healthy enough to make the distance, and Death and Destruction balled around him pretty solidly there. So TF2Easy now look to bust out a double soldier bomb. Looks like it might be their choice of poison. Get Spawn Bob down, not doing a lot of damage to Jorge, but managing to pick up 3 frags. That might just be enough to either gain them the point and potentially get this force onto Jorge as he backs out onto the grass.
I could be wrong, but I don't see a reason not to use your Uber charge there. You completely just give up the point, and now it's even anyway. The entire point of this map is you want to be delaying and running down that clock as much as you can, and your choices in the game have to reflect on that. It's not always about holding onto your Uber, it's about running that clock down any opportunity you get, and now it's just a trade which is happening on tf2easy's time. tf2easy are able to run the clock down here, not Death and Destruction, all because that kind of wasted Uber was held onto for so long.
Yeah, they're not getting any real positional advantages. You're completely right. They sort of had an opportunity to potentially pick up a couple of frags, but ultimately solidify themselves on that point for their spawners then rolling out. So a bit of a slip up here now, and it's given a lot of time to tf2easy now, and given Death and Destruction a bit of a hammering on the old health point front. So
Gaz
looking to make a bit of a rumble on point, picks up 2 players. With Morale picking up Jevon trying to go behind as well, and tf2easy just solidify themselves on this point ever more. 1 minute 10-second advantage.
Jorge's showing us why you run the Saw though in the Sol and Val meta. He does have an Uber advantage right now. Will he be able to make the most of it? No, he won't, as it's only onto SpongeBob. Everyone else is more concerned about these 2 soldiers causing havoc on the backlines, and Flick isn't able to find anything at all in the Uber, and Jorge even goes down to Sil at the end of it. The pickaxe kill comes in once again this map. This time tf2easy getting their revenge, and this looks like it could be curtains. There's only one Ixie left on the point, and he goes down. So 3-1 in the end to tf2easy, taking this first map of our semi-final. But there was a bit more sign of life from Death and Destruction than maybe we expected.
Yeah, it turned into a real dogfight towards the end there. It looked like Death and Destruction sort of really didn't pull any punches in that 3rd round there. And then if it wasn't sort of for the exception of that super long cap in that 4th round, it was a pretty good performance from them, considering how much we were hedging against them in the pre-game here.
Yeah, and obviously coming up to Sunshine next, which will be Death and Destruction's map pick. Hopefully we'll see a more interesting game coming through on that map. Just waiting to see if there's any logs updated as of yet. But I believe we've got our kaidus here now, so you can break down what you thought of that first map.
Hey again, fellas.
How's it going, gang?
How's it going, gang? You know how it is. Yeah, I mean, for the most part in that game, we saw roughly what we would have expected in terms of the disparity between the teams on this map. I mean, I would say I was fairly impressed by Death and Destruction's mids. They actually won 3 out of 4 mids, and mids, like I said, going in, mids were actually a problem area for them going into this map. So they actually showed that they've improved their Viaduct somewhat since we saw it earlier in the season. But ultimately, like I said, the disparity was just too much for them in the end. And on the other side of things, tf2easy showing a couple of weaknesses themselves in certain departments. In round 1, we saw an incredible Uber trade from Silentes where he took the trade in, jumped behind, and then his team followed up, and Silentes then rebombed and collapsed and got like a 3k or something. But from that point onwards, for the rest of the game, whenever tf2easy were taking these trades into the point, like when Death and Destruction had control of the point, there wasn't any real collapse. It looked like Silentes and Nubby fell out of sync somewhere along the road, which kind of opened a window for Death and Destruction to come back into this game. But whilst they managed to do it for a round and a half, it wasn't quite enough to make this more than a 3-1.
Do you think it was the sort of effectiveness of the Ubers that is why Death and Destruction were able to pull it back a little bit in the latter rounds, or was it something else?
I think it's a bit of a combination of everything, to be honest. Like they got like a lot of they won the mid in the round. I think it was the second round they won. No, it was the 3rd round. They won the mid. They had some like comfortable time holding the point. They managed to get a forward hold in place at one point. And yeah, the trades, like I don't want to discredit Death and Destruction because you can only win the fights that are put in front of you. But I was in that round. I was disappointed by the trades of or by the attacking trades of tf2easy. It kind of felt like Silentes would come in, he would take the trade with Kunu or with Morel Alexi, and there just wouldn't really be any follow-up. Sil would jump behind, and he would either get picked off or he would have to rebomb alone while his team were preoccupied with other things, and the only real like otherwise commitments would come in a little bit later. So I felt like it was, I don't know, TF2Easy. I don't want to say TF2Easy gave it to them because that discredits Death Destruction way too much, because they had some really solid performances. Like, yeah, you have to give credit where it's due. There was some really impressive moments from Death Destruction in that game, but yeah, I feel like TF2Easy just kind of lost track of things a little bit in that round.
Yeah, so I mean, there was definitely sort of grounds for a bit of miscoordination there. A lot of players going behind, and the recommits not coming in quite at the right time they would hope there. So did land TF2Easy in a few sticky situations, and some really frustrating deaths, I'm sure, on Auto's side there, and Jevon credited for a lot of those where he was just able to pull something out of nothing and get that medic frag.
And I mean, even with slight coordination issues from TF2Easy aside, they really did show the DM disparity that we were mentioning between these two teams. Like, sometimes Gazzy's just allowed to run across the point and kill 3 people who he really shouldn't be getting away with killing with no backup from his team at all. Sometimes Sil is just going to land on you and kill 3 people. And it's like stuff like this that obviously it's not just winning TF2Easy the game outright, but we weren't seeing much of that from the side of Death and Destruction. The only real solo player highlight I can remember was Jevon hiding in house and picking up a free medic kill walking past him. There wasn't really that star moments happening for Death and Destruction to maybe push them a little further.
For the most part, I would agree, but I do want to give a little shout out to Ixie getting a. I think it was at the tail end of one of the mid fights. Ixie was on 3 HP.
Yeah.
It was a 3v3 fight, and he managed to clean up 2 of the 3 players whilst being on 3 HP. And then the pack spawned just as Marilla Legacy hit him with a pistol. The pack spawned, so he managed to survive that mid, and it was a comfortable mid take for them in the end. I think that might have been in the round they won. I could be wrong on that one though, but. Yeah, I mean, there's looking at the logs. I'm not sure if they're on you guys' stream, but I have them up at the moment, and there's a pretty big disparity in the scout frags. Like both Morale and Ghazi are above 30, and probably roughly 10 frags above their counterparts. And when you have both scouts dropping 30 plus frags in a 20-minute game of Viaduct, you ain't gonna have a good time playing against that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, there were several situations as well where Nasboy, he doesn't have the most impressive log here, but he was just dropping scouts from Ubers with traps over and over before trades even came in for Death and Destruction, and you could see them have to kind of bring another player into the Uber to just kind of desperately try and salvage it, and Auto was just able to get like 5-second better Ubers off of that, being able to run back for a bit, sometimes not even use at all. Because I believe there was just a house trap that kept catching Flick off guard from Nasboy.
It's actually a really good point, because one of the things I said going into this game was that Death and Destruction struggled to push the point, particularly without Uber. One of their weaknesses was they weren't that comfortable pushing the point, and Nasboy just made that an absolute nightmare for them with the trap kills that you quite rightly point out. They had some other problems in that department, but when you're losing a guy, every other time you go to push the point, you're losing a guy before the fight even begins. Not only does it just stall you out while you wait for that guy to respawn, but what Death and Destruction would tend to do is then they would try to start like a semi-engagement, so try to take a little bit of ground for free and things like that. And a couple of times we would see then another player like bleed and die as well. Like just a slight overextend gets caught, and then he's in the respawn queue. Like the guy who died to the sticky trap is respawning, and now they have another guy in the respawn queue, and then eventually this all culminates in some kind of big collapse from TF2Easy. And yeah, so I mean that's a lot of credit to give to one sticky trap kill, but obviously it's a team effort, but it's all started by those trap kills, as you point out. And yeah, I feel like that would have been driving Death and Destruction absolutely crazy, and probably, to be honest, tilting them at some point in the game.
All right, turning our eyes forwards now. We were hyping up Sunshine in the pre-show. Do you think, after seeing what's happened on Product, that there is enough light in Death and Destruction that they'll be able to take this one over the line, or do we still favor TF2Easy on this map?
I mean, from my perspective, I still have to say I would expect TF2Easy to win the map, but I was very, very surprised that TF2Easy let this through the veto, because Death and Destruction have a very nice win rate on Sunshine so far this season. They've played it 3 times. They've won 2 of those, and their one loss was a single digit loss to Witness Gaming, who are obviously our first seed of this season. And we obviously saw them in the semifinals, putting up a very, very dominant display against Foreskins on that map. So yeah, I mean, it's not by any means a map I expect them to win, but I feel like TF2Easy have just given them that foothold in this series with this Sunshine pit, by allowing Sunshine through into the veto. But one thing I've noticed from their previous games is they're going to have to tidy up their last pushes against Foreskins. Even though they won that map, all of their rounds pretty much came from either backcaps or from failed second pushes out, failed pushes out of last by Foreskins, and then just like, the inevitable easy last push that comes off the back of that. So the options are there. They have solid mids, they have solid transitions, but yeah, they're gonna have to iron out their last pushes from the last time we saw them if they're gonna stand a chance, because they're gonna have to be clinical, because yeah, TF2Easy are definitely gonna put up more of a fight than we've seen.
Yeah, and on the subject of last pushes as well, last time these two teams met, week 7, last pushes really was the crux there as well. Death and Destruction look absolutely clueless up against these strong sentry holds that we've come to expect nowadays. We had near round resets of them just butting their head against a wall, waiting for a sniper to do something for 7 minutes, just not really able to break through and get a last push going. Even when they had uber advantages, we were seeing failures come out from them. What do you think is your preferred way of getting rid of these super strong sentries? Oh, do we even have time for it? Doesn't seem like we do.
Looks like we're going live, boys.
Yeah, big old thanks to kaidus once more. We're now kicking off our second map. This is the ETF2L Season 41 Prem semi-finals. It's Death and Destruction versus TF2Easy. Coming off the back of a map 1 win is TF2Easy here. Death and Destruction in the downlift, hoping to go up. We are kicking off now into our first mid. A pretty slow one from both the Demomen, just feeling each other out. A huge one from Celentes. It basically nullifies Ixie at the start there. Opens up a lot of space for Nubby, who manages to get an insane amount of damage onto those players. TF2Easy with some pretty reasonable positioning, but Nazboy overextends into Mates and puts Auto in a really sticky spot here. A good recovery there from Gazi, picking up Jorge in the sort of outlast of that, but a bit of a sticky first mid there, Bum.
Yeah, Nazboy just really chewing on that rocket when his team doesn't really have the position to be fighting with him. Just really stuffing his face into them and throws that away at the end of that 4v4 fight there. But yeah, very nicely played from Death and Destruction to take this initial mid-fight. Both medics have gone down, as you mentioned. So we could see something interesting start to occur already if either team wants to dry push. TF2Easy have shown themselves to be kind of keen on occasion. Whether or not they'll do it on this map is another question, but Jevon is straight into the sack, hit a beautiful little jump, and landed directly on Auto, who had no clue, but does survive it nevertheless. And we might be able to see a counter-sack attempt coming in, or just a straight-up push. We've got a huge amount of combo players into Cafe, and Sil bombing through the choke while they're distracted, looking at that entrance.
Oh, wow.
Does land himself onto Jorge and
wow.
picks up that frag. A lovely little set play from TF2Easy.
Yeah, Celentes managed to draw so many eyes. I'm going to say he drew 8 eyes total. Obviously, omitted the Doorman there, and it just opened up the flank. Nubby came in, and just completely isolated Jorge as Death and Destruction's players were just oogling at Celentes in that cafe area there. So sort of falling a victim to their own regimen on the side Death and Destruction here, and it's opened up TF2Easy a few opportunities. Nazboy the one ultimately to make the space here, but hotly contested by the soldiers of Death and Destruction here. They want to make a bit of a mark. They managed to get Nazboy. That's a really crucial pick in these pushes, but respecting the advantage to an extent, they lose Gazi as well. So Oh, and Silentes, it looks like they're going to have to pop the Ubercharge. It's only Morale, super deep. Obviously wants to get a hold of Jorge, but so far away, it's going to be a sticky little outlast here for TF2
He is in behind, though. He can get onto Jorge, and he finally picks it up. Jorge did so good to ring around the Rosie for so long, avoiding that Uber in its entirety, but they do lose track of Kunu at the very end, and that's going to be what matters in the end of things. Honestly, that looked so disconnected from tf2easy. They had initially kind of baited out those bombs in towards the choke, but then just really fed one by one, not knowing whether they wanted to use the Uber or not, it seemed like. And now they do get their second attempt off the back of that medic kill from Morale, and they do easily pick up the baited soldier of Jevon this time. And it's a much different affair as they do cap second up pretty much straight away. We got a 50% add to go with as well.
Yeah, slightly more successful on TF2easy's end now. They've got a 50% Uber ad. They're not keen to hang about. They've got a player ad in hand as well. The only thing that can disrupt that is going to be SpongeBob on the sniper. They look to nullify him, pushing in through this left-hand side. The gun does go down. A lot of Death and Destruction players now congested on this right-hand side. A huge double bomb coming in. Opens up a lot of space on that cap, but they've taken a big old chunk of damage. TF2easy in return for it now. Managing to get a couple frags, but slipping in the back lines is Morale just slipping on as sort of the eyes were drawn of Death and Destruction and getting that first round.
Yeah, got a lot of cap time early, perfectly juked the soldiers as they came in to block the point, keeps himself alive, and finishes up that last cap as well. Morale really was doing all the work on that last push there, even being the one to take down the sentry. For some reason, Nas just jumped straight onto the point and didn't even shoot at it. But here we go. Into this second mid. We'll see if Death and Destruction can replicate their success.
Yeah, they're kicking it off with a really early double bomb. They managed to get Jorge, a pretty crucial frag for them, but they lose sort of Nazboy from the fight. He's been nullified in that valley area. Also left alone as well, losing Gazi pretty quick there. Looks like it's just going to be a bit of a scrabble, but ultimately the frags coming good for TF2easy. Death and Destruction committing a few more players as a sort of bit of a recovery there, and just not able to win that bit of a scrappy DM fight towards the end.
Yeah, a real insta-gib from Jorge on the mid actually comes back to help them at this point. They do have a 25% advantage off the back of it, but that was such a perfect mid-fight from TF2easy. They aren't even going to be able to get off of last. Too many frags remaining. They know that they're going to be pushed up forwards. They've got second in the bag already, and the off classes are coming up. Ixie building that sentry. We did see a sniper for a moment there, but Flick has elected for the Pybro instead.
Yeah, they've had a decent chunk of time now to fortify their defenses. They should be ready to rock and roll. They've not opted for the sniper this time. Nubby looks like he wants to initiate. They think it's equals, but they actually have a slight advantage there. So not sure.
It's not anything you can do on a last point, though. I mean, you can have all the advantage you want when you've got to get through a lobby. Nevertheless, a lobby as treacherous as Sunshine's, that's going to eat up so much of your advantage. Only 25%. You can't really do anything with it at all without some frags to go along with it. And speaking of which, they do find Silentes here. That's going to make everyone leave lobby, but this is where it just gets so tricky. Even though they've given you lobby for free, you now have to bust out onto this high ground of the lighthouse before Sil even spawns, which he just has. So back to last for everyone on Death and Destruction. They do keep hold of last for now, but that's all that we can really say in their favor.
Yeah, really not too keen. Obviously, it's a big old risk trying to push out, especially with these defensive off classes as well. So a bit of a sticky spot for Death and Destruction to be in. They're just going to have to roll with the punches. We do see a banner being popped on one of the sides. Jevon bombs in, managing to get the force onto Water, who was a little bit too far up that staircase, and you know, they're not going to be able to capitalize anything off the back of it because it was well anticipated, and of course Flick pretty tight with that pyro as well. So TF2easy now just a pretty passive position on second, and Death and Destruction really not rushing things as they wait for Jevon to spawn.
Yeah, really taking this one slow, but there's not too much time to wait. We're already up to 50% on auto, and it was only a second ago he was forced. SpongeBob is pushing off this flank, just getting some space for Fancy to walk out from lower. They are taking the space, but they're 75%. They need to start getting some cap time or some positioning forward. Sil just bombs in, takes out Fancy, and that's really going to stop things on this push. Sil even able to push forwards through lower, and does get onto Jorge. Gazi doubles up with him to secure that force, and that has just gone from bad to worse for Death and Destruction. That kind of trap of trying to push out has been set and laid perfectly, and now 100% add in tf2easy's favor.
Yeah, Silentes's sort of individual play really shining there. 2 nice rockets onto Fancy was enough, but then managing to net that force is really, really huge for tf2easy. They've got about 35 seconds in hand. They're fully aware and that SpongeBob is on the sniper, so they're going to want to use Uber through pretty rapid and try and take as much position as possible. They have got a little bit of a gun to contend with, but that's dealt with pretty swiftly as they instantly cross over this point. Now they really want to get Fancy down, try and lock down this point. They get SpongeBob in the fray of it all. Ixie the Heavy, the only real threat left to deal with Jevon, just sort of mopey around in the back lines, but facing the 2 tf2easy scouts might be a bit of a tall order.
Yeah, that last was over long before it even seemed like it was. For some reason, tf2easy just wanted to pad their stats collecting the frags, it looked like, but there were 3 players in spawn and the traps were dead, like, long before that fight was over. That could have just been capped up in a second if tf2easy wanted to. You can't really put that many players into spawn at the same time, especially with no trap or no soldier to block the point. But here we go into this third round. Looks a little bit better so far for Death and Destruction as they do instantly take down Sil, but just as I say that, disaster strikes as Jorge instantly gives once again. The scouts and Nubby remain on the mid. SpongeBob is low in behind enemy cafe, so is Matt. There's really nothing they can do from this position, and they've both been scoped out. They know all about it. As long as they don't fall for this trick where they kind of camp the forward spawn, they are going to be fine. They do find a frag onto Morale, but that's not going to be good enough. The mid does eventually go the way of tf2easy, and with these 2 frags, these late frags on the mid, they can just bust this straight away.
Yeah, it's sort of a good delay tactic, but you put yourself in a really sticky spot when you want to try and hold second. So the one frag they did get serves them pretty well, but not quite good enough. Again, isolated is Fancy Elf, both the soldiers on his case. Jevon has a little something to say. He gets 2 rockets onto Walto, managing to kill him sort of 2 lives in a row there. That's got to be frustrating in front of his entire team as well. But they've got the players, they've got the fortitude, they've got the health now to try and get that cap over the line and just make it as awkward as possible now for Death and Destruction. And
thank God for Jevon there, securing that frag at the end of it. It really looked like Fancy had missed a memo, and if Jevon doesn't make that play, the round's already over. Like, Fancy was just miles ahead of his scout and his medic, giving himself up for free to Sil. But thankfully, Jevon is able to get that med frag and really swing the favor. Now, as they do push out from lower, there's another sack in from Sil coming onto Jorge. Does get shut down this time, so it's a 1-for-1 trade. The Uber charge is still in the favor of Death and Destruction, but there's 2 players in behind this soldier all the way back to last Nubby. He's on the point. There's no one here to block him in time. Ixie's just able to get there, and the soldier comes in as well, but they've managed to block the entire push out from second. Just from that one soldier sneaking in behind, Nubby has put a stopper to everything Death and Destruction wanted.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. We're really seeing the individuals on the side tf2easy shine here. We've seen Jevon put in a really solid shift as well on Death and Destruction side, but Nubby, Silentes, Morale individually are able to make an insane difference and just turn the tides of points on their own. So real solid shift being put on from those guys in Death and Destruction. On the last point again, airshot is Nubby as he comes in, and the headshot onto Morale as well. But Jorge, the player that goes down there, does go down a drop, I believe, to Nazboy's pipe, which could scupper them a little bit in spite of their 3 frag advantage.
Yeah, they definitely aren't gonna try to push this one out. Maybe if they'd been a little bit faster, they could at least kind of pressure the cap. That gives some time for Jorge to come up and start building, but they've just taken so much damage in lobby as well. They need to start rushing backwards. The Uber charge is going to come in. There's going to be another attempt for tf2easy to take this one any second now. The sentry gun isn't even going to be up yet, as Ixie does build it up now on the left side of point from the attacker's perspective, which is exactly where they are taking this Uber to. This time Nasboy straight in onto the gun, unable to take it down though, and it does finally fall. Jorge, once again, was the first frag of this last push, but this time, it seems like the rest of the frags are going tf2easy's way as well. They are kind of getting stuffed out here by this heavy of Flick, and they are just going to call it quits once again. They can play this ad as many times as they like, and one time they're going to get it right.
Yeah, it looks like they're really just playing for the insurance there. They managed to pick up Jorge in the outlast of that when it was looking a bit hairy. And then they just think, okay, let's bunker down, let's get an auto out, and then let's have another crack at the egg. They're not going to push out at this. They can't push out at this, and yeah, just forcing Death and Destruction's hand at every opportunity there. But one thing I've noticed in this TF2Easy Super is they're able to take a lot of position. They're able to cross over that point really, really quickly, but just not quite able to keep the players alive for long enough to sort of win the post fight. But we are going to see an Uber coming out pretty rapid there. Gun spotted out pretty late, and again we're seeing a really, really deep Uber. They've managed to isolate Fancy up once more, but damage coming in pretty late. Ixie up on the heavy once more, but nobody really in a position to block at this point. We are going to see the Soldier get there eventually. It's just going to be Fancy Elf and Jorge left. He's on 98%. That's unfortunate, Bun.
That is unfortunate. Anyone lives a second longer, and, well, I'm not going to say it could be a different story. I think at the end of the day, that's still a one round for tf2easy, but yeah, could have been something there, but it was a much better push in this time from tf2easy. Jevon tried to block the players coming in, jumped behind the Uber, and that meant that there was really not any soldier able to block the point, as once again the players went in spawn and the stickies were blown. But here we are on to this fourth mid-fight. So much aggression coming out from tf2easy, instantly killing Jorge once again. No one going down on their own side yet. Auto is just running all over the place. Mid is his playground, and he is able to survive. Fancy Elf coming in with this last-ditch attempt. Not looking too good for him though, as two scouts stare him down, and that's a complete wipe, a 100% advantage for Auto to boot, and this map does not look as close as we were so thinking.
No, I mean, Jevon at the start of that mid went for a really audacious flank. You know, it was sort of a 10-second rotation, and in that window, tf2easy just collapsed and managed to convert that sort of 5v6 fight, and sort of nullified him like right from the get-go. So really much they've very much got the coasters going, and they're quite keen to get themselves busty into this last with their 60% Uber advantage, and trying to disassemble this Death and Destruction defense. And we've seen how quick the Ubers have been before.
Yeah, and here we go once again. Ixie's gonna go down already. Sticks kind of cleared from point as well. 2 frags, 3 frags make that 4 tf2easy on the push. They are already able to take this last. The soldier and demo do try now to come out to block, but it's completely in vain, as the point is capped up 4-0 with 15 minutes left on the map. We're gonna have to see an insane comeback for Death and Destruction to survive this season. This could be the last round of their lives in season 41.
Yeah, it's not great. You know, with how drawn out and back and forth the rounds were right at the start, tf2easy are just speeding up the sort of turnover of these rounds in their favor, and it could potentially crush Death and Destruction on a moral perspective there. So gonna have to see what their response is. And a really fast mid coming out of tf2easy again. The bombs from Death and Destruction looking significantly more favorable, but at a cost of a lot of health here. They lose Jorge. It's just going to be Mathez left alive, trying to make a little bit of a mark, but tf2easy, they're pretty regimented. They're going to know exactly what to expect here, and just quite contented with plonking themselves around Auto, waiting for that cap to go over the line.
Yeah, Matt, just a last-ditch effort to block mid, but Ghazi, he's on it, and he's about to get 3v1'd in Flower.
Oh, no.
Does go down there. Nasboy didn't get the memo that they were dealing with the guy behind, so he just completely feeds in lobby for no reason. But hopefully they can wait for him. This overcharge advantage is so massive that it's not going to matter at the end of it.
Yeah, we see the direct hit coming out of Nubby as well. Be interesting to see whether that's sort of got any grounds in reality, or just wants to have a bit of troll in what could potentially be the last round here. But putting up the sniper again, it's going to be Death and Destruction. They're going to really have to bank on him this time to make something, but they're just going to Uber in straight through this top left. Gun going down pretty rapid, and again we're seeing the really rapid crossover. We're seeing a bit of an exchange. No frags really coming over the line. They lose morale, and it looks like they just want to slip Auto out. They're losing 3 players. It looks like Death and Destruction kited them just enough and tf2easy didn't think to play the point until pretty late on.
Yeah, this time, once again, 4 players going into spawn at once for Death and Destruction, which is never really what you want, but this time, they hadn't really found where Jevon was going to be, so Jevon was able to get a nice block in onto the point, which was just enough. In fact, the timing was such that everyone was turning around to kind of walk back towards the point from spawn camping, just as Jevon is able to block it, and that lets those 4 players out of spawn, so they just had the perfect timing there to keep themselves alive on last. As the double bombs do come forwards, Fancy is going to get picked up. Sil is doing work on a minimal amount of HP, and the forces come out as well. They're not able to get any frags with the Uber. Still finally going down here, but Jevon's going to get chased for it. Matt's going to go down too, and Jorge in lobby does get cleaned up by Gaz as well. That's a 6-man down for Death and Destruction, and I believe that's the end of their lives.
Yeah, it's not looking too hot for Death and Destruction. 2 players alive, tf2easy on at that last cap. They pop the Ubercharge off just to try and convert these frags, and we're going to see a 5-0 to tf2easy, winning the first map 3-1. And it was looking as though Death and Destruction were keeping it pretty tight until it went to that sort of 3rd round, 4th round, and then it all sort of mothballed and built up against them. And yeah, they managed to let it slip 5-0, unfortunately, in spite of us bigging them up.
Yeah, they definitely had chances early in the map, but at the end of the day, 18 minutes is all it's going to take for tf2easy to dispatch of them. And at the end of the day, I don't think anyone can really say they were surprised. I think the biggest gulf in kind of the level of TF2 in this season is between the top 2 and the bottom 6. Any of those bottom 6 looked so close. But at the end of the day, I think the gap between tf2easy and Death and Destruction was always too big for that underdog story to come to fruition.
Yeah, it's it's really unfortunate after what we were saying at the start there, but tf2easy ultimately, they just had so many cracks at the out, so many opportunities to try and push that last, and they were just able to convert it more consistently and get the ball rolling, and then it really did just snowball. So what we're joining us back again, obviously, is kaidus. What's your sort of general thoughts on that? Are you slightly disappointed in the result?
Yeah, I'm quite disappointed, to be honest. Like, and I think, I mean, maybe it goes without saying, but I think Death and Destruction will be disappointed as well. Don't think they gave I don't think they gave a true reflection of their abilities on this map. Don't get me wrong, TF2Easy were dominant, and it was a very impressive display from them, but it looked like somewhere around the middle of the game, I'm gonna say probably when that 3rd round was capped, their mental was gone. They were a broken team. But I would just like to point out, like, if you go back, it might seem a long way away now, but if you cast your mind back to the beginning of the game, Death and Destruction won mid, and I don't know if you guys caught it on your camera, but after that mid fight, Jevon did a sack where he did like a really fast sack like through flowers where you kind of surf off the ramp.
Landed on auto.
Yeah, exactly. He landed on auto, but it was the perfect sack, except that his rocket was so clean on auto's head that it skyboxed him, and he couldn't get the clean. He couldn't get the follow up. He couldn't get the follow up rocket. And I just think, if he gets that kill, that opens up his team to take second, maybe to get a last push, maybe stretching things a little bit here, but maybe to get a round on the board. And I think maybe we see a different game if that goes the other way. And that was such an unfortunate moment for Jevon. But I mean, that's just one round, right? TF2Easy would probably have almost definitely completely come back into the game after that. And that one round, this hypothetical round that I'm creating in my head, in my fantasy world, that would have taken some effort still to get, because as I said before the game, last pushes were a problem for them in the past. And yeah, we didn't even see a last push from them today. So it could have been different. I think they'll be disappointed, but it's a testament to how strong TF2Easy are, that they could pick, literally, not pick, but veto into Death and Destruction's best map and just completely dismantle them on it.
Also, this being one of the maps that historically this team has absolutely hated. Sunshine has been one of their weak spots for a few seasons now. They're pretty vocal about how much they hate it. and the fact that they're just able to easily 5-0 in less than 20 minutes is really a testament.
Yeah, certainly so. But obviously, off the back of this, a 2-map victory, tf2easy going to be gunning it into the finals against Witness Gaming, who beat them in a tight 6-0 game earlier in the season. So how do you think we're going to see tf2easy stack up against the players of Witness Gaming? Of course, we've seen all of them run around the mill a few times in many a grand final. But how do you think it's going to fare this time around?
I mean, the score on ETF2L says 6-0, but okay, the game was a little while ago now, so maybe my memory's a little hazy, but I think it was a very close game.
I think it was a double 3-1, wasn't it, or a 3-1, 3-2, something
Yeah,
like that.
it was a 3-2 on Viaduct, and I seem to remember thinking there was several rounds for both sides that could have gone either way. Snake was a 3-1, if memory serves. And obviously, Snake was actually the first ban of Full Tilt, not Full Tilt. What the hell am I saying? I just
8 years too late, bro.
I was just thinking of Silentes for some reason, and Full Tilt comes back into my mind. But yeah, tf2easy's first ban tonight was Snake. So yeah, personally, I think those teams are incredibly evenly matched. They're very, very different teams. Like, I think there's a very interesting stylistic matchup to be had there. But okay, Witness got the better of them in their regular season game, but I think tf2easy have definitely improved as the season has gone on. Witness have as well, no doubt, but I don't think that 6-0 is a fair reflection of the balance between those two teams. I would expect an incredibly close grand final, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's hard not to favor Witness Gaming just with their track record. The amount of seasons they've won since I-65 is incredible. But this is going to be the first time these two teams meet in an actual season playoff official for over a year now. There's been 3 seasons where these guys, just by pure chance, have been taking seasons off at the wrong time, not meeting each other. So it's definitely going to be exciting to see who comes out on this kind of battle for the crown of the online era, I suppose you could say. These have definitely been the top 2 teams throughout it. And whenever this match is scheduled, we'll get to find out who deserves to lift that trophy.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, some pretty formidable names on either side, and I'm sure you'll all be joining us over here and potentially on kaidus' channel as well. But yeah, a really solid showing from tf2easy, and they're going to look to replicate that level of success in their game against Witness Gaming, of course, at the Prem Grand Finals. Do we have any other sort of remarks, any observations, gentlemen?
I would say just reflecting on just to briefly reflect on the game we've just seen. Even though Death and Destruction got a bit of a beatdown in this series, I would just like to give some props to them. I mean, I've just come back to the scene after a couple of years away, and to be honest, with the exception of Ixie, I've not ever really seen any of these guys compete at this level before. Like, I know the name Matters, I know the name Jorge, like, those are names that I recognize, but I never really knew who they were. And Flick, Fancy, Jevon, those are guys I'd never heard of before. So my expectation is that they're not the most experienced of players, and I think they can be very, very pleased with their progress over this season. Like, placing third in this season is no mean feat. So even though they go out on a low, I just want to give props to them. I want to thank them for giving us some really entertaining games over the course of the season, even if this game maybe wasn't the best representation of them ever. But yeah, I've had an absolute blast watching them play this season. So yeah, big props to them.
Yeah, a few solid runs of the mill, and I'm sure they'll be in sort of contesting the top 2, at least some of the individuals. So yeah, definitely big props to them. Anything from you, Bum?
I've got nothing more to say. Good job, gentlemen.
Yeah, another good job, well done. But yes, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. This has been the ETF2L Season 41 Prem Grand Semi-Finals You have been joining me, Meer, on the mic, joined by Kaidus and Bumfries on the microphones. And of course, one of the unsung heroes of production is Ondkaja. These production guys put in a really solid shift. So big old props to them. And thank you everyone for watching. Have a fantastic evening.